Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 27 of Be With Me. You can find us on the web at bewithme.us. We are going to jump over, quote unquote, to John chapter 11. Now, it seems like we're jumping around in pages of the Bible. There's a reason for that. We're actually trying to smooth out the story of Jesus' life chronologically. So wherever that takes us, in the pages, we're trying to do one event and then the next event. So we moved from John chapter 11 yesterday, and we're going to move to Luke chapter 18 today. We're actually trying to make the Bible, the story of Jesus' life, less jumpy. All right, our parable today tells us what it's all about before it even starts. That is, we get the effect, which is to always pray and not lose heart. And then there's a story that goes with this. So let me read. This is Luke chapter 18. And he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart. So that's what the parable's about. Verse 2. He said, "In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, 'Give me justice against my adversary.' For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, 'Though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice so that she will not beat me down by her continually coming.' And the Lord said, 'Hear what the unrighteous judge says. And will not God give justice to his elect, who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give them justice to them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?'" So this parable begins with the end in mind, and that is the effect, which is don't lose heart. Always pray. Don't lose heart. And probably the reason this parable exists in the first place is that we do lose heart and we have some discouragement. But here we get the interpretation of the passage before we even start it. So we have a man here who is a bad example, and he's actually a great example of being a bad example so that we can have an understanding of our Lord. So we have this judge who doesn't fear God, doesn't fear man. And just remember that our earthly judges and leaders will have a judgment against them someday because their authority is borrowed, it's temporary, and they'll face judgment. And then we have this widow here, and we find out that the widow is actually pleading a just case. So she's not having justice delayed. She's actually having justice denied by this nasty judge. We find out she's a widow, so we find out that there's been death in her life of a spouse. She's probably older rather than younger. She's female. She's probably poorer rather than richer. And so she is getting the bummed here a little bit. So during the story, we find this judge who refuses her justice, and eventually, because of her persistence, she gets her case heard. All right. So my thought for today is, I wonder what do I cry to the Lord? What do I say to the Lord both day and night? What could someone accuse me of? Like, oh man, you've been so persistent in this prayer. What would it be that if I had a category of beating the Lord down with my requests, would there be anything in that category? So one of the teaching points of the parable is to let my prayers be continual. And certainly also let my prayers be just. Let them be according to your will. Let them be within your kingdom, within your desire. May they be perfectly aligned with you, with your justice and character. So maybe you're a prayer and maybe you're not. So let's do this. Let me just end our time together with a prayer, and you pray along with me, because what better way to make our prayers continual than let them start today? So help me think about something that I should have been praying and I should have been bringing before you all along. Maybe it's a someone, maybe it's a something, maybe it's a suffering, maybe it's something that is unjust. And Lord, it's something that I'm tempted to lose heart about, or maybe I already have lost heart. Maybe I've dropped my heart about this. So my prayer is to help us do better in talking to you, in crying to you, and not dropping our hearts, not being discouraged, not giving up. And Lord, I claim these promises that you have an elect and you hear and have an ear and have access. And Lord, you ask in the parable, will the Son of Man, when he returns, will he find faith on the earth? Lord, perhaps you can help me grow it, help my unbelief. Will you find faith in our country? Will you find faith in my city? Will you find faith in my apartment or my house? Will you find faith in my car as I listen today? Will you find faith between my ears and in my heart? So Lord, I pray for myself, for what I am discouraged about, as well as my brothers and sisters. I pray, Lord, that there would be no defeat, no despair. And I pray, Lord, that you would replace discouragement inside our hearts about this topic that we've brought to you, or this person, or this suffering, or injustice. And I pray, Lord, that you would wipe that away and replace inside our heart faith and persistence. Help us to be watchful. Help us to anticipate your return. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for praying with me today.